Okay, now despite the fact that there's a number of flaws you can point out in Lamont Roach's fight game, like him losing balance when he throws punches, the way he comes forward in a straight line, being very wide during combinations, the tick he has with his catch and shoot, and just flat out leading with his head at times, it's not very hard to see where he can be somewhat tailor-made for an explosive counterpuncher like Tank. It's almost as if Roach will eventually run into the perfect shot rather than having to be baited. But because Roach is very crafty, has legitimate speed, good timing, and a better IQ than most even realize, it's understandable why there's so much fuss from his team as well as Tank's team about Lamont Roach's skills. And even though it's been floating around that Roach was stopping every sparring partner to the point where guys were afraid to come to the gym, to me there's still a very real possibility that this bout could look something similar to Lamont Peterson versus Danny Garcia, depending on Team Roach's approach, at least early on before the inevitable happens. However, because during an interview with World Star, when asked if anything about Roach's style concerned him, when Tank's answer was the headbutts, it made me wonder just why that was Tank's go-to answer right on the fly and how that comes into play. I mean, evidently it made Roach's overzealous nature an even easier read, but this personally gave me some clarification on the rematch clause and why there might be one. Now, it's no secret that most superstar boxers have rematch clauses in the event that they lose a fight, but when there's only a rematch clause for certain opponents, like in Tank's case, Ryan, Rolly, and now Lamont Roach, while there is none for guys like Hector Garcia and Frank the Ghost Martin, that pretty much says it's because they aren't seen as that big of a threat. Which tells me that Tank will be cautious of Roach's dirty tactics and might even already have the jump on what game plan Roach and his team will use come fight night. For instance, we all know Tank gets easily marked and swells up a lot more when he allows himself to be hit while walking down an opponent. And because Tank is the one who will more than likely force Lamont to his back foot, there could be a situation where Lamont does touch Tank up enough for it to look legit when they finally are at close range and the use of his big Megamind bobblehead ass dome comes into play. You know, anything can happen in those situations, from cuts to puffiness around the eye. And once the jab starts to have a special target, shit is and has been known to get crazy in there. So since Tank and Roach have fought twice in the amateurs in two fights that are said to have been highly competitive, with Roach giving Tank some trouble in each one, I believe that rematch clause could really mean that Tank and his team have way more respect for Lamont Roach than many of us assume they do. Because we all know this fight is damn near a family affair, with both sides not only knowing each other very well, but also technically being the same side. And Barry Hunter being at the helm for Tank's training camp over Calvin and Kenny is a clear indication of that. If you don't already know by now, go do some quick research. Of course, there are some who are of the notion that this shit is just Tank getting another easy payday and hooking up his day ones. Some might even go as far as to say that Gervonta is going to carry Lamont Roach on March 1st, and Tank claiming that he believes Roach is a harder matchup than Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, and Devin Haney only makes it that much harder for some to take the bout serious. But will they still feel that way if Lamont Roach is looking like the bigger man in that ring come fight night? Hey, it's like they always say, there's only one way to find out. Tank also recently told media that there might be an announcement after the fight on Saturday that determines who his next opponent will be. Now, since Shakur and Haney just agreed to face each other and Ryan and TR are over there with the Turk, we might as well rule all of them out at least until late December if Tank is serious about fighting 3 times this year. But could we possibly see Tank moving up to 140 for the winner of Rayo Russell? Or maybe the long-awaited rematch with Pitbull Cruz? Guess we'll find out soon enough.